Welcome back, everyone, to theCUBE's coverage of the AWS Financial Services Symposium here in New York City. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight. I would like to welcome to the show Peter Sprenger. He is Field CTO at Splunk. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Rebecca.
So Splunk has been a fixture in financial services for a long time, but its role has changed. Why don't you start by just describing what is Splunk and what you're focused on right now?
No, it's a great question. I think Splunk, whenever I'll talk to people and try to understand their baseline, where they're coming from. And I found that sometimes it's whatever they first saw Splunk doing, and that could have been whatever job they had. And it's with Splunk at its essence, it's really a data platform. And with that, just like you can use building blocks, and when kids go and play, they can build whatever they want out of things. And that can be good because people can build a lot of really cool things as they're thinking through it. But it also makes it harder to explain it. And so Splunk at its essence is a data platform. And building on that, people can use it for security. They can use it for observability, understand a bank's operations and how things are running and the customer experience. There's a whole bunch of different things they can do. When we look at AI, you really can't have a good AI program without a good data program. You want AI understanding what's happening, and if it's going to make important decisions, reading the newspaper from today and not a month ago. And we find that Splunk can really help financial institutions either jumpstart their AI program and then make it sustainable and being able to understand how it's doing. And then when we look at data coming into that data platform, making sure that's happening efficiently. So Splunk can do all of those things, and it's really exciting.
So you mentioned security and observability. Let's first talk about security, because this is a good example of where things get really critical. How does Splunk change what is possible in terms of a security team for a financial institution?
I've done a lot of security work in financial institutions, and we think, and I spent a lot of time as an infantry officer in the military. And as we fight threat actors and we think about defending it, I mean, banks are under attack, constant attack. And these are extremely sophisticated nation-state actors in some instances. Splunk really helps people work from a common operating picture and stop kind of talking past each other with all the different systems that financial institutions have and focusing on the threat. It's thinking about security end-to-end and being able to do that. So Splunk comes in a couple different areas. One, you can take almost any data you have, as long as it has a timestamp, and you send that in, and Splunk can help make sense of that. But then when we look at Splunk and, say, enterprise security, now you actually have mission control, almost like a virtual war room to be able to think through things. And now leaders are making decisions based on what they're seeing, data in real time. There are dashboards that are across video walls in, say, a command center or a fusion center thinking through. And now people are thinking about the threat and trying to reduce risk instead of really thinking about the data and the nuts and bolts. And we want Splunk to be that utility that people just use to be able to do their best work together. But at the end of the day, we want to understand risk, and you can't understand risk without good data.
Right, observability. How do you help them realize value?
Yeah, and observability I think is great, and that's kind of the other area where we'll see, maybe a security team, owns Splunk. They purchased it and they use it. But we also see in the financial institutions and a lot of the banks are using it for observability. And that could be everything from understanding, are my switches online or my routers or, whatever it may be. Or it can enable the business, and it can say, what is the customer experience? How long is it taking them to access our mobile application? Or in the case of AI, we think about AI as this monolithic, amazing thing, but it's technology that relies on a bunch of other technologies. And what if something important for AI isn't working? I mean, we would want to know.
You need to know. You need that data. Exactly.
And
so let's look at a customer engagement. Walk us through how you work with customers and kind of the impact that Splunk can have.
Well, I think that's, and Splunk's a part of Cisco now. It acquired a bit ago there. Now there are things where, say, if you have a piece of Cisco hardware, you can just install an application and it'll come right away. And then you have dashboards right away where you're getting great metrics coming out, largely very fast to set up. But we see customers and they bring Splunk data in, and once that data is in, and that data can live in different places, and you can even search it kind of in different places. There are a lot of cool capabilities we have that have rolled out. But with that, they set up alerts. There's AI that can process things. You can even use agents to go and help you sift through that, really in that haystack finding the needle. And then you can use Splunk to go out and do something about it. It can orchestrate actions. There are different areas where you don't need a ton of coding skills. You can use AI to help build queries, to help make sense of it. You can have dashboards that are showing things. And that's really the journey, I think, is first getting the data in. There are things that you can download from an app store to do that very quickly. And then figuring out what's important. What do you want to help alert on? And then what to do about those alerts. And it changes it from people thinking about what's going on to what are we going to do about it, or where should we be investing? And those are the decisions that are really impactful and that just weren't available to people with technology we had just a few years ago even.
One of the things that really stands out from what you're telling me here is that the emphasis is not just on getting more data, but on having the right data in the right format. How do you help a firm get there? And describe what that journey looks like from the initial deployment to having Splunk really be embedded.
Yeah, and that's where I think just looking at a couple of our customers that have great Splunk implementations, banks that have done a really good job in just really realizing the full value of their investment. They'll leverage the Splunk integrations that are pre-built. They go put those in, and the data comes in. It's in a format that makes sense. They're able to immediately start realizing value from that. And working with customers, what we've seen is there's a lot of value when you look at the total cost of ownership and what they're getting. There's a lot of value in not having to recreate the wheel and rebuild those things. So they connect those. They then go in and build dashboards to be able to monitor things, alerts to be able to very quickly move forward, and then understand where their risk tolerance is. What's the level of risk they want to accept, or how quickly do they need to work through that? What we're seeing now in that journey is now customers are layering on AI. They're using Splunk agents to figure out how can we do this faster? How can we do this more efficiently? And it's a really fun journey, and we're nowhere near the end. It's
exciting times.
Transformative.
Peter,
it's
thank
fun.
you so much for coming on theCUBE.
Thank you very much.
I'm Rebecca Knight. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's coverage of the AWS Financial Services Symposium.